Welcome to the Calsoft podcast series. This is your host Mark Rodrigues. With me today, I have Sadhvi Shori and Nitin Kale, who are going to be talking about SDS, that is smart storage. I will quickly introduce these guys before we get into the podcast. Sadhvi is a QA engineer here with us at Calsoft. She has about 2 years experience in the virtualization and the NAS domain, and she's worked on various protocols like NDMP, CIFS, NFS, ISKZI, Samba, etc. Sadhvi, it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mark.
As for Nitin, he's a senior principal QA engineer with us, and he has close to 9 years in the storage domain experience in testing enterprise class backup and restore applications. He has also worked on testing of different NAS boxes like Hitachi NAS, NetApp, and has also worked on Veritas volume manager in the SAN environment. As with Sadhvi, he has also worked on different file and block serving protocols like NFS, ISKZI, NDMP, and FTP. So Nitin, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Mark. It's good to be part of this.
So I want to get into the topic. Very basic question. What is SDS?
Okay, so I would like to take this. SDS is basically software defined storage. That means that the storage would actually be defined by a software. So in this case, it's not that the software is storing things, but software is defining where to store. So the bottom line here is that the hardware is going to remain the same, but the controller, or we can say the processor of that physical storage, would be done by a software.
Okay.
So it basically helps to eliminate the need for hardware in the storage infrastructure. So it works like storage virtualization, where all storage resources are actually managed over a storage specific hypervisor. So here the abstraction of storage from hardware eliminates the need to depend on the hardware constraints in allocating storage to the end users, or we can say the systems.
Okay, perfect. So then what exactly are the forces that are causing the need for SDS?
Okay, so if you look at the way virtualization has transformed the data centers, it has enabled the IT admins to consolidate and to manage the workloads. So this is going to address a lot of problems that customers face around the storage, like be able to manage the storage at scale, automate very basic things like DIAS, monitoring and alerting the storage, like what actually it is doing. All these things are really critical for IT admin to do. So this enable IT admin to manage at scale and use new technologies like block storage or distributed file systems to add new capabilities with much better economics for the data centers.
Okay, so that makes sense. Then would you say that SDS is a generic term for storage virtualization?
SDS is quickly transforming itself as a top technology trend in the storage industry. But the exact meaning of this term, whether it represents a new paradigm or just another marketing buzzword, is actually a topic of hot debate. So I would say that SDS is not storage virtualization. So storage virtualization actually grants the capacity of multiple storage devices, or we can say arrays, to be pooled so that it appears as if we are sitting on a single device. So let's take an example that a physical host contains 5 drives of say 1 TB. So in storage virtualization, the component might appear like we have a single host that contain a single 5 TB volume rather than 5 separate disks.
Correct.
While in SDS, it really looks at the application that has predefined set of processes or policy and provisions storage accordingly. So SDS is not about separating capacity from storage device, but it is about separating the storage features or services from the storage device.
Okay, so then it's not storage virtualization?
Yes, it's not.
Okay, so fundamental question then. So how is SDS different from traditional SAN and NAS?
So there are a few aspects which make SDS different from the SAN and NAS, and one of them is the difference in the price. As we know, SDS reduces the cost across the entire IT stack. So SDS is more affordable compared to traditional SAN or NAS, and that's largely because it does not rely on expensive set of hardware to achieve the reliability. Another difference is in the agility. Like agility means the speed at which the storage vendor can make the changes. In case of a traditional SAN or a NAS vendors, changes requires a lot of time, like it may be a weeks or a perhaps month. Whereas in case of a SDS, changes can be easily done within a minute, and that's the beauty of having the SDS.
Perfect. Is there anything else?
Yeah, there are few more which I would like to mention. One of them is difference in scalability. So in traditional SAN arrays, there is a limit for the number of drives that we can attach to the controllers. On the other hand, SDS is designed like a cloud, which assumes that hundreds or thousands of nodes are more interconnected with the standard network. Another difference is in multi-tenancy. In typical NAS and SAN storage configuration, devices are limited to their potential, and this usually fulfill the singular purpose, which may leads to a performance issues.
Right.
Whereas in case of SDS, it is designed like for a multi-tenancy, which means user can easily relocate the application to the unused storage, which makes most out of the available resources.
Perfect. Reliability also should be a major difference, right?
Yeah, as we discussed earlier, the reliability for the traditional SAN and NAS vendor comes from their custom hardware, whereas in case of SDS, the reliability comes from the software. So in a high scalable environment, it is assumed that hardware will fail in certain time. Hence, it is the job of software to make sure that everything continues to work with very intelligent and self-healing process. And this conceptual difference between traditional SAN and NAS and SDS makes it more reliable compared to traditional storage.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Nitin. So why is SDS so popular nowadays?
So these days what we need in storage is a lot of storage capacity, a processor, an operating system and a network connectivity. So as we know that the data need has exponentially increased in the last few years, nearly decade, and will continue to grow. So the need for storage expansion would remain a never-ending process till the end of time. So, but the issue with that is that when we need to expand, you need to expand the whole system, not just the storage capacity.
Correct.
So with the storage capacity, the processor, the operating system, the network, everything needs to get updated, and that will obviously cost a lot of money. So here comes a simple logical solution to it. This is to separate the hardware storage and the software intelligence, so that the hardware at the data plane keeps getting added and the control plane is managed by software. This will save us from the complete system overhaul, which was time taking, tedious, expensive, and a lot of hassle, downtime, migration challenges and whatnot. So it's not DAS, SAN or NAS, so don't get confused. It's neither a JBOD that comes with a SAN or NAS, nor it's a RAID. So these are all the conventional technologies.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, so what purposes does SDS serve?
So the concept was to save the world from expansion hassles of the storage and make it open to instead of the proprietary expansions. So SDS is the latest technology offering in the data storage domain that separates the control plane from the data plane like SDN and gives the ease of programmability, migration, virtualization and automation of the storage system. So this enables user to build a vendor agnostic storage system and makes you independent of hardware vendor, giving you the ease of expansion whenever required. Also, now your storage would be virtual, as it can be expanded and contracted using the software and could be kept in third-party data centers or in your own data centers or even in multiple locations. So this is how virtualization works in SDS.
Okay.
As for orchestration, this gives you an ability to have storage in different locations behaving as a one. So that's the master stroke of SDS. So some other aspects are automation. So this is an artificial intelligence given to the machines with a checklist of eventualities. So there are certain level of issues that could be handled automatically, and for the rest the human administrator is there to handle. Now you can make multiple storage at multiple locations behaving as one. So the effect to the same is giving the same storage to multiple office in multiple locations. So that's a multi-tenancy in SDS. So it helps you increase the efficiency of the whole storage system. Also, whether your data is to be collected remotely or stored remotely, any kind of migration from old hardware to the old location, so This is how SDS enables you to migrate comfortably.
Okay.
Another aspect is transparency. So as defined by SNIA, the ability for storage consumers to monitor and manage their own storage consumption against available resources and costs.
Okay, so then how is SDS helpful in the data center?
Okay, so for years the innovation of legacy vendor concentrated only on the hardware side,
Correct.
producing faster, bigger and more expensive boxes that needed to be sold quickly. So it is no secret that the amount of data created and stored is increasing very fast. So as much of 90% of the world's data has been generated in last 2 years, and the further big trends such as IoT, machine learning, artificial intelligence and the mobility will certainly increase the growth even more. Data centers are dealing with the results of this growth even as managers struggle to make do with flat or decreasing IT budgets. And the one solution to this comes with the arrival of SDS. The principle is very easier. Rather than buying a proprietary product that combine hardware and software, the customers can choose the best hardware and software that they can combine them into the most effective product as per their needs. So SDS gives them the ability to choose less expensive standard hardware and use it with enterprise level software.
Okay, perfect. So what then are the use cases or applications of SDS?
Since it is a storage technology, it is obviously of use to those who need a lot of storage. Any kind of data center and DR would need this technology. In addition, ISPs, cloud service providers, along with media industry are the use cases for this application. Another industry that I would like to mention is BFSI. I mean, it's needless to quantify their data needs. So to sum up, SDS is hardware vendor agnostic, and the need for SDS industry is vertically independent. Every industry is running on the data, and the need for the storage expansion will continue to rise.
Okay, makes sense. So what then are the advantages of SDS?
So one of them is empowerment and flexibility. So by providing the option to use third-party hardware, users are not tied to a single specific vendor for the capacity upgrades. So now user can choose the best component for the application, such as the flash storage for performance and large disk drives for capacity. So this also makes it simple to configure the software services for individual workloads. Also, the abstraction of storage services from the hardware makes SDS storage systems better able to ride the hardware development curve, leveraging the upgrades in CPU power, drive capacity, rest-enabled disk drives, so that manufacturers bring to the market. So in this way, SDS provides the ability to do other things with storage systems like hyperconvergence and frees up the design to support more innovation as new technologies develop. Another big advantage of SDS is possibly the area of cost.
Okay. So then are there any potential risks of using SDS now that we've spoken about the advantages?
Yes, Mark. Despite all the advantages, a risk still remains there. SDS solution lead to additional problem in case of a disk failure or defects. So imagine that within the SDS software layer, there is another layer called as a virtual layer. So as you can see, the extent of a problem is tedious in case of a disk failure here. So as with every other technology, SDS has also some roadblocks. There are some issues related to data security and privacy. So any organization will never entertain a loss of data or unauthorized access to their storage system. And this is one of the major concerns for the companies those are planning to adopt SDS. One more drawback or a disadvantage I would like to mention here is the enterprise have invested heavily on the data center to run their applications. So migration from the traditional data center, that too in such a short span of a time that their business does not get impacted, is a tedious process at this moment.
That makes sense. Now what are the parameters that have to be ticked off for the implementation?
Okay, so when using or setting up an SDS system, it is particularly important to use a sophisticated data protection strategy that includes data recovery. Additionally, it also makes sense to create, in addition to the normal backups, also a backup of the current system settings, so that both the company and a data recovery specialist have it for future reference if it comes to a complex system failure. So lastly, often the backups in companies are created more or less automatically, but never really checked whether these really work. So therefore, you should check your backup on functionality again and again.
Okay. So, do you have any forecasted growth numbers for SDS?
So according to the report from Infinity Research Analyst forecast, the global SDS market is supposed to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 31.62% during the next 3 to 4 years. And according to the 2016 SDS market report, one of the key drivers for the market growth will be the cost reduction and efficiency. So SDS is going to provide a lean business model by automating process controls and replacing the traditional hardware with software.
Okay. So, you've obviously spoken about the challenges of SDS, but do you want to throw some more light on that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest challenge of SDS is overcoming objections from data array customers who have invested time and money in their data storage systems. So existing storage arrays already have their own data and storage management software, and IT managers are already paying for some form of storage management services. The other thing is that initial SDS execution takes really longer, especially in software only form, can make initial implementation more difficult. While it does bring flexibility, it provides a storage architecture designer with more options. Another obvious challenge is cost. Also, there are too many vendors. So since SDS is still a young technology, there are at least 20 different SDS vendors vying for market share, and each with different approach. And lastly, it's not baked yet. SDS is concept that is still evolving. It is surely coming, and the SDS market will mature.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, so are there any upcoming trends that we need to look out for in this space?
Yes, there are few. Let's talk about the virtualization for storage infrastructures. So SDS is helping organizations manage vastly growing data stores efficiently and cost effectively, so that the data can support their business decisions and add to competitive differentiation rather than absorbing all their IT resources. So SDS will continue to dominate industry narrative. SDS is proven to help organizations handle the data deluge while avoiding massively expensive storage systems in favor of right-sized, scalable, and easy-to-deploy solutions. The organizations can cut their storage cost by 50% or more, reducing capital expenditure by purchasing commodity hardware. The next thing is the evolution of storage architecture will accelerate. So SDS will help organization to address the full range of storage needs by speeding and simplifying the process of moving data to the most appropriate hardware, while consolidating access and management of the data with rest of the company's data stores.
Okay. So, how does a service provider like us get involved in this aspect?
Calsoft has been in SVN for 18 plus years now, and we have been working on a niche and cutting edge technologies and have been working significantly into dev and QA areas. So our services offering enables storage ISVs vendors to quickly develop next generation storage solution that can perform and cut across the entire enterprise IT needs.
Okay, so we are at the end of our podcast. We've looked at multiple aspects now, but Nitin, do you want to encapsulate today's discussion very briefly?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that SDS is becoming a red hot in industry because it is enabling the products to do a lot of powerful things. So the potential users of SDS needs to be sure that they are getting all the benefits. SDS is a new concept and it requires efforts on a manageability, integration and validation of what works and what doesn't in a customer data centers. So this requires a new set of tools, technologies and skill sets. So the technologists are working on this technology to truly ensure any investment in it represents a sustainable, future-proofed and affordable alternative. So I would say SDS will overcome all the challenges and prove to be the best alternative for the traditional storage in a near future.
That makes sense. Okay, that ends our podcast for today. Nitin and Sadhvi, it was great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming with us.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
So for any feedback that you may have about our podcast or you would like to listen to anything in the near future, please write to us at marketing@calsoftinc.com. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.